Okay, now if you look at the sheet that says 6-string power chords exercise number 1. If you just take a lay of the land here, we've got a G5, we have an F5, you look at line 2, there's a C5, line 3 a D5, line 4 an F5, what did I say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is a B flat 5, and I think that'll be all the chords. So by knowing that, if you look at that neck diagram, you know that we're on the 6th string, so the root is always going to be the first finger on the 6th string. So find your G, 3rd fret, 6th string. So that's your G. You play that twice. What comes next is the F. So your first finger now has to be in the 1st fret. And then it goes back to G. Okay, now you have a C. That is up at the 8th fret. Back to G. Now you have a D. If you look at your sheet, D is at the 10th fret. C, 8th fret, F, 1st fret, G, 3rd fret. Okay, now, in terms of ear training, it's not uncommon that when anybody starts learning an instrument, they can't really tell the difference between chord qualities like major and minor. They have a hard time hearing the difference between these notes. That's normal. It gets better if you intentionally listen to what you're playing. So a tonal center is basically like home base. That's where the tension wants to resolve to in a chord progression or a scale. So if I played a G major scale, we don't want it to stop there, we want it to resolve. That's the resolve to G. That's a G major scale, resolves to G. You can play a chord progression where all the chords work together and then they resolve to G. So in song structures, when you're playing solos, you're paying attention to how the chords are moving and what's going on in different sections of the song, because different sections will have different chords. Like a pre-chorus is going to sound different than a verse, or it wouldn't be a pre-chorus. We respond to this movement of harmony. So training in our ears is really important as musicians. And this is a great exercise because we're just using power chords, but you get to hear the root movement of each chord and how they relate to one another. So I designed all of these exercises specifically, purposefully, to be in keys and to introduce you to pretty common root note movement. So if I play this a little faster and I just go like this, that feels like home bass. That's your key. So this whole first exercise is in the key of G. So for right now, you're just trying to find this power chord up and down the 6th string. So it's a lot to try to keep track of, but the more you play through it, the more comfortable you get with these chords. Start listening to how they relate to one another. For right now, you'll be having to look at the neck diagram, look at the exercise, trying to look ahead. Oh, here comes F. Look at the neck diagram. Come back. If you do that enough times, you'll have it memorized. This is what I do in the studio that's really effective with people. Probably 9 times out of 10, when an intermediate guitar player comes in for lessons, or someone that's been playing for a couple months, they're usually pretty overconfident in their ability to find these notes just on the 6th string. They might know where G, A, and B are, maybe a sharp or two, but when they get in the flats, they just kind of go blank. So play this exercise over and over again. Play it with whole notes, play it with half notes, play it with quarters. Just keep playing it until you don't have to look at that neck diagram any longer. And when you can look at the exercise, find it on the guitar neck, that means that you know it. That means you've memorized it. That's probably a good time to start paying more and more attention to the root movement and hearing how these chords relate to one another and how they resolve ultimately to that G chord. So it's a lot, but don't feel like you have to do it all at once. Just be actively listening as you're playing, and your ear will start to pick up on this stuff. Right now, the goal is just to get you moving across the guitar neck and starting to learn the fretboard and be able to play in time. And once in a while, I'll do this palm muting thing. So let me play this for you. I'm going to set a metronome, and I'm going to set it at a fairly slow tempo, so 65. And I have it subdividing at eighth notes. If I see whole notes, I always subdivide. It just makes you more accurate. So this whole first exercise we'll do with quarter notes. And it's at 65, but I have it set because I want to hear the eighth note. I want to subdivide. You'll always be more accurate when you subdivide. So here is the 6-string power chord exercise number 1, and I'm just going to play whole notes. So I'm just going to count to 4, but I'm going to subdivide the entire time. You'll see what I mean. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. F. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and G. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. C. 8th fret. 2, 3, 4. G. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. D. 10th fret. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. C. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. F. 2, 3, 4. G. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. B flat. 2, 4. Hear how that grabbed your ear, that new chord? C. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. D. 1, 2, 3, 4. F. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Resolve. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's the whole first exercise. Now, if you played any other instruments before playing guitar, like something like piano, each key on the piano is a half step. If you look at that neck diagram, everything moves up in half steps. E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. So it's the same relationship. We're talking about half steps here. Okay, now I'll play this exercise for you using quarter notes. I'm not going to change the tempo, so we're going to keep it at 65. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 10th fret. So I'm not relieving the pressure. I'm just sliding it up. C. pressure so you don't hear it as much. And the beauty of playing through with whole notes first, if you're new to this, it gives your brain a chance to process the information. So you can look at that G and then look ahead, know what's coming, look ahead, know what's coming. So now you're just focusing on identifying the fret and where to put your finger. Your right hand doesn't have to work so hard. So if you just play these with whole notes for a little while, that's totally fine. That's actually really important, to go slower and be consistent and develop a good solid technique and sense of counting, instead of trying to play things too fast and just be kind of a mess with your rhythm and being late to the chord and sometimes playing quarters, sometimes playing eights. All that kind of chunkiness and broken aspects will show up in your playing, and then you'll just kind of integrate that. So it's just like an athletic thing. You want a smooth technique that you can do over and over consistently, and then you speed that up. So for right now, if you just have to take it slow, that's fine. Now I'll play the same thing, but I'll do it with eighth notes, and this time, same tempo, 65. I'll do it using palm muting. 3. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, G. F. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and G. 1 and 2 and 3 and B flat. C. D. And 2 and 3. F. G. So you notice when I was palm muting, I was just brushing the strings, but I'm staying in contact. I'm not doing a lot of lifting. You'll get into that later. You can, that kind of quick release of the mute. But for right now, keep the mute on, be able to play that consistently through the whole piece, so you're not getting variations in it. Just develop the technique, and then you can play with it later. Okay, so that's the first exercise. There are plenty more that we'll do on the sixth string. We'll move keys. We'll introduce sharps and flats, some palm muting, some not, different tempos, different rhythms. So, but for right now, work on that one. And now you've got a really strong start on the sixth string. Everything that we do after this builds on this information. So I start introducing keys and chords that utilize this information that we did in this exercise, and then we'll add a couple more. So it's a tiered way to learn. It helps you memorize these things faster and be more consistent with it. So that's the sixth string. We'll do the fifth string in the next video.